Good evening, Reptile fans. Troy K here, and welcome back for another episode of Friday Night Live Reptile Chat. We are up to episode 12 tonight, and hopefully we're in for a really good show. Last week, anything that could go wrong did go wrong, but this week we are hoping to redeem ourselves. So let's see how we go. I am joined by my very good friend Peter Birch from CrittaCams tonight. Hello, Peter.
G'day, mate. How you going?
Good, sir. Yourself?
Oh, doing wonderful considering we're having some miserable weather down here and you guys are stealing all the good stuff again.
Sunshine and lollipops today, my friend. Sunshine and lollipops in sunny Queensland. It was beautiful.
Yeah, we had 4 seasons in a day today. A bit of rain this morning, a little bit of sunshine, followed by some wind, more rain, and just rain and wind. So, we got it all. And the temperature drops too, so that's even better.
Oh, now coming up on, that cannot be right. Is that right? I just had a look at our live count, and it says we've got 317 people watching. I don't know if that's right.
No, that's crazy.
Dude, I don't know. But anyway, cheers, everyone. Coming up on...
We'll take that.
Yeah, take that as a win. Coming up on tonight's show, obviously we'll be talking antaresia. We've got Peter Birch on from CrittaCams. Also want to cover some of the animals Peter's kept in the past, and what are some of the animals he plans on keeping in the future, or some of the projects. If we can squeeze some little secret projects out of him, we'll see how we go. I'd also like to talk to Peter about some American stuff. He's been to America a fair few times, so let's chat about the American system compared to the Australian system, their strengths, our strengths, their faults, some of the mergers that would make for a really good keeping system. All that sort of stuff. But first, a massive shout out to the sponsors, to the people that are really helping make this show possible. You've seen what I could do for the first couple of episodes. Pretty basic. We're starting to get the timers going now. It's looking pretty plush. So I'd like to shout out to Reptiles Down Under. Make sure you give them guys a like. Riverina Reptile Relocation, give them guys a like. And then, of course, Rally Magic, Wayne Larks, Deb Larks, they helped with the first 9-10 shows, something like that. So please do me a favour and give those guys a like as well. Massive thanks to all the sponsors for helping make this show possible. Plus my little cousin, who works his little butt off every afternoon. So champion effort to him. And exciting talk with sponsorship is I am in talks with another sponsor at the moment, which will be lots of goodies and giveaways for you guys. So that's how I'm trying to approach this sponsor with want lots of goodies and giveaways to give out to you guys, because you are the guys that are making this show so much fun as well. So massive hats off to you guys. And if that number's right, 320 plus, damn, that's all I can say. Absolutely damn.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
That is. Comments are coming in thick and fast as well.
It must be your haircut.
Well, usually I get a fresh shave every Friday afternoon, but not this one. This week's been flat out for me. I've spoken to you this week. You know what my week's been like. I've been in and out of hospital. So, unfortunately, I'm not sure what's happening with next week's show, but I am back in for surgery next Tuesday. So my arm has gone bad. There's an infection running rampant through the body. So, I've had a few pick-me-ups to get me through onto tonight's show, but back in hospital, more surgery. Yes, sir.
Just maybe the hospital will have a better service than what you've got currently.
I don't know. Well, it's there.
Internet service.
True. I love it.
I don't know how your medicals I don't know how your medical team will deal with it, but yeah, you never know. It
I
might
get
work.
a private room every time I go there, so it's yeah, it could happen.
Beautiful.
So coming up on tonight's show, we'll be talking to Peter about his antaresia and all those critters, talking American stuff. But first, before we get tonight's show started, what's been making noise on Facebook this week? Now, for me, I've got a couple of posts from Australian pythons and Morelia, and the first post, was a mixed species post, and that was I find them interesting. Now they're not full blown hybrids; they're just a lot of carpet crosses. But the one I found interesting, no diamond jungle crosses up there. Now, for me, when I was into breeding jags, that was a must-have for the collection. You needed, a jungle diamond carpet to make those fluoro yellow diamond jungle jags and whatnot. And I did not see a single jungle diamond cross up there. And take away what they produce, just the animal itself's a stunning looking animal. So I found that surprising. You've seen my jungle diamond crosses when I had them, and the black was black, the yellow was yellow. Yeah,
very spectacular. Yeah, they actually made their colours accentuate. In other words, made the yellows really pop. Like they were solid yellows.
Yeah, I thought they were impressive. Really good cross. So I was surprised I didn't see those. But anyway, the second post was from Joanne Hayes. Again, same page. It was Joanne Payne, and she put a post up of her new white-lip python. So I thought that was great to see those starting to, they're starting to filter out now, and get through the go through the hobby. So to me, that's always a step in the right direction. So good work to everyone involved with the white-lip python and getting them into the hobby. And the other one I found interesting, and that was on the Parenti lair, and they've had they had Parentis hatching today. I think it might have been yesterday. I think it was today. They were 90 days preemie, and now they're twin Parentis popped out, but 90 days preemie. And what I found interesting was Wayne had one that was like 100 days. It was a lace monitor, so not a Parenti, but it was like 100 days preemie, and that was about 2 weeks ago. And he thought that might have been a twin. So, what are your thoughts there with these monitors, big monitors coming out early? Is it the twins or the weather? Or
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, previous experience with breeding stuff, they still incubate the same period of time, whether there's twins or triplets in an egg. That's my experience. Maybe we've had a lot more warmer weather for a lot longer period of time. So I don't know how these guys are incubating. Maybe there's a small fluctuation or some form of influence there that's caused these animals to hatch slightly premature. I know with some gecko eggs that I incubate, if there's a heat wave that comes through for a day or two, it'll actually cause the eggs and the babies to hatch earlier. So that's my experience. So I don't know. Maybe these guys are having something similar.
No, I'm not sure. The Parenti lair. Now, I'm not sure their incubation temps. But I double checked with Wayne, and Wayne incubates at 31.5. Now I double checked with Peter Krause, who's bred a lot of monitors and a lot of lace monitors, and at 31.5, incubation time should be around 220 days. Now this thing of Wayne's, it hatched out at day 161. And Peter Birch was Peter Krause was saying 220 days as that was like the minimum. They're like 220 and up, 220, 240 sort of thing. Yeah. So, that was preemie monitors coming out.
It's interesting. It'd be interesting to see how it progresses as it grows, if it picks up that slack pretty quickly and then, grows up to be a normal-sized lizard. That'll be very interesting, I'd anticipate it would grow at a normal rate.
With Wayne's, I'll be a pest and I'll be around there, once every couple of months putting it on the scale. So he won't have a choice with that one. But I think he knows I'm going to be.
Yeah, well, that's
I think he knows I'm going to be a pest. I was around there 2 days ago and it was, where's that? Where's that baby monitor? Have you named it yet? Can we weigh it? Yada. So, is it feeding? Yada, yada, yada. Yeah. So, well, it is for those that did see the episode. I've done a little episode on it. and it was 9 grams when it hatched out, and it started feeding day one, and yeah, it's still feeding and drinking and all that sort of stuff. So it's still doing well. But that's what I seen on Facebook this week. What about you, sir? Was there anything that caught your interest?
Same thing. The same thing that caught my eye was the white lip, and definitely the premature hatching. You know, that was pretty amazing. And it was a pretty cool picture too, you know, the little window cut in the side of the egg, and you can see the little face looking back at you. You know, it's really prehistoric, like true Jurassic Park, looking in there and seeing that thing look back at you. You know, they're absolutely gorgeous.
Cheers, Joe. We're just getting a few congrats and whatnot on the amount of people, and yeah, we're holding that 220, man. I don't think it's a stuff up. I think we're good. So anyway, off to.
That's awesome. Hopefully I can do this justice.
Well, if we don't get the same response with the next guest, Anyway.
It'll be more.
Anyway, off to YouTube. Now, as soon as they were doing a bit of an American episode tonight, usually I plug the Australian YouTubers. And, come next week, if we're doing a show, I'll go back to plugging them. If it's not next week, the week after, I'll go back to plugging them. But the American YouTubers, I'd like to give them a plug this week. We're going to be talking a bit of American stuff. So let's talk Jay from Prehistoric Pets. I'm not sure if you watched Jay, but he cut the one that I watched from Jay was he was cutting a clutch of pieds. And they were amazing. There were the panda pieds in there, but there were these other pieds in there as well. Platinum, tiger, something or other. I don't know what they were, but they were just amazing. Very white with just a couple of bits of yellow and brown spots on them and stuff. Did you catch that?
Yeah. A lot of those whites too will actually turn into yellows as they progress. So very similar to like with the carpets and the jags in your experience. You know, they start off really pale, and as they get older, the yellows really pop. So when you see the babies that colour right now out of the egg, you can only imagine what they look like in 3 months. And I mean, you know, I've been there while Jay's cut eggs, so you know it's absolutely fabulous. Yeah,
I've seen amazing. Those episodes where you were there. And don't worry, I get envious. One day I'll get to travel over there.
Oh, yeah.
You'll
love it, man.
We'll have to talk about Jay when we start talking about America. Now another place that you visited, Camp Keenan. Now Keenan or Kennan? How do you pronounce it?
As in Ken and
Kennan. Right. Now you've been to his place.
Yep, just Camp Kennan. His name's he's Kennan Harkin, that's his name, so he just calls it Camp Kennan, which I think's a little bit on the dainty side, but everyone calls it camp as in like a farm. That's sort of a nickname for a farm for those guys. Right, camp. So, but his place is absolutely amazing. You know, it is truly an animal paradise. Everything about that place is all for animals. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah. And I was planning to go back in October, but see how we go.
Hopefully this COVID settles down and you going back by yourself or you organising a tour?
Well, you know, I was going to go by myself, but, you know, I might organise a bit of a tour and we can encapsulate all that. And then towards the end of the tour, I might stay back for a few extra days and do some other stuff. So Ken and I were planning on doing a fair bit of filming together with a couple of little projects. So, yeah, we'll just see how it farms there.
Nice. Well, I was lucky enough when he was over in Australia, you brought him around so I could meet him. And that was amazing. I thought he was an amazing guy. And I've been following him ever since. And he's done an episode this week. He's got a rhino iguana that he's rescued. It's a rescue animal, and he's just set up a new home for it and whatnot. So for those that haven't, give that a subscribe. Give all these guys a subscribe. They're all great shows. Brian Barchek, he fed a pig to his anaconda. That's always worth a watch. Pig anaconda. You got those two words in the title. You got me. 100%. You've got me.
I can't wait to see the follow-up show in about 10 days where it's the clean-up. Shovel in the wheelbarrow. So,
amazing.
Actually, I'll ask him to do a special show for me just about
now
the
again, you've been to Brian's. No, you haven't been to his new setup, have you? Or have you?
I haven't been to the new place. No, I've been to the old place several times, but the new facility I haven't been there. Yeah, I haven't been in the US for the last 3 years, maybe 2.5 to 3 years. Yeah,
been cut.
So it's horrible. I feel like I've been chained down. I just need to get out, you know. But
now another one, Palumbo's Pythons, Dave Palumbo. Have you been, I know Dave's been to your place. Have you ever been to Dave's place?
No, I haven't been to Dave's. Dave's only moved down to Florida. So most of these guys are in Florida, except for Brian. He seems to like the snow up in Detroit there. But so Dave moved down to Florida about 3 years ago, and I haven't made it to his place yet. But hopefully on the next trip, that was one of the places I want to go and see.
Well,
So yeah, there's a lot of cool guys. There's a lot of cool guys over there. A lot of cool collections.
Yeah, well, he's done. What's really grabbed my attention from Dave this week on Palumbo's Pythons was one. He cracked the moonglow. Now you brought that up last week in the photo of the week or something. So that I went I went snooping straight away and watched that, and then so he's done an episode on that, which was amazing. And he was talking about, you know, how he produced the snow a couple of years ago, but he was lucky enough to get a pair of caramel double hats, het for albino, het for axanthic, and he put one of them across his double head, I think, and produced a moonglow. So that was amazing, and that's the first outside of Australia. I think you pointed that out last week. So that was amazing. And then he's done a live stream with Wayne Larks as well. So that was, I'm not sure if you caught that. That's only a couple of days old, that one.
Oh, that's good.
So he's done a live stream with Wayne Larks. So that was good to see, you know, an Aussie hooking up with some of the overseas podcasters and whatnot. So yeah, again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Dave's a great guy. He's got a good collection of Australian animals, you know, like he keeps olive pythons as well as a good variety of carpet pythons. So, and that's what we do, you know, we share information and we join together because we love the hobby. So regardless of the country we live in, we should be able to still share the passion and the love. And it's awesome to see that Dave and, you know, Wayne got together and did something together, you know, like it's awesome because they both obviously have done the same, and it's good for them to share results and talk about the project. You know, that's what I like to see.
Isn't it good that we can do it over countries these days?
I think that's cool.
I got
back in the old days,
I got some.
Had to get a pigeon, put a little bit of paper around its leg, and let it go.
Peter Cress and chewed it down and fed it to his own belly. I got some info for you here from Darren Boswell. I think it is. He fed that pig. Now, that pig was a 12-pound pig that he fed off, and feces was about a pound of feces. Yep. So there you go, a bit of info from a Darren Boswell for you. I found that one, Dane found that one in the comments for us. So, champion, Dane.
So what's a pound? A pound is like, what is that, 2.2 kilos per pound, isn't it? 2.2. Yep. That's really not that big. You should go a bit bigger.
Still hurt. Anyway, what else? Last but not least, talking about YouTube, and that's you, Sir CrittaCam Peter Birch. You and TC Houston hooked up. TC Houston from Reptile Mountain. You guys hooked up, and I found this on the Reptile Report. That, you guys hooked up and done an episode together. And so I'd like to finish off with that one.
TC's a great guy. He reached out to me. He came to Australia. I drove down to Sydney, picked him up, brought him back, had a great conversation. And there again, you know, two guys that love animals, different sides of the world sometimes, and yet you've got this common denominator, you know, the love and the passion of the animals, and just, you know, you just click instantly. You just click. You know, he was, him and his young son came over, and it was a great day. We had an awesome time, and we filmed some stuff for his channel, and we just had fun just talking animals all day. You know, we just non-stop took him home, didn't stop talking all day. You know, it was just crazy.
That better care challenge that he done. That was amazing. I found that on CrittaCam. He done one with the rough scale pythons, and then I went and checked his channel out and watched the episode on his channel for his better care challenge and all that sort of stuff. And I thought that was an amazing challenge to put out there. So if he watches the show, you know, thank you so much to TC Houston. I took the challenge up and done the Boyd's Forest Dragons. I just got some Boyds in, and straight away watched that. Straight away thought, well, they're the ones that that I'm doing. So I've done a quick makeover on them and saving the pennies up at the moment to do a full blown bioactive setup for them. For the and again that'll be for that better care challenge sort of thing. I think it's an amazing challenge. It should be,
So what you should do. So yourself and anyone else that's taken up the challenge, you guys should actually shoot or take a picture and tag TC Houston in it to let him know that his work, no matter how great or small anyone is out there, has made an influence. And that, positively reinforces what people are doing. And that's the only way we can gauge we're moving forward in the hobby. I'm glad you did that. And anyone else has done it.
I think I've made a new friend. I follow him on YouTube. Vice versa, I've noticed he's just subscribed to the FNL Reptile chat page on YouTube. We've become friends on Facebook. So thanks to you meeting up with him and everything you've done with him, I've now met a new friend, sort of thing. So cheers, man. That was amazing, and cheers to him if he's watching the show. So top bloke, like you said. So and good advice. If anyone takes the challenge up, please tag TC Houston in on it. So. Yeah, I think that's...
let him know.
It's something that should be done every year, I reckon.
Swamp him with photos.
Every year I'd like to bring it back up.
And I mean, it's the smallest difference, you know, like, you know, we keep animals in captive condition. So the smallest thing that we could do, and people say, oh, you know, it won't make a difference. Well, it does, you know. Like I proved this week, I just pulled some branches off a tree, put them in a couple of lizard cages, and those lizards react differently. You know, initially some animals react like there's something different in the cage, so they'll search around, they sniff, and they tongue flicker, and they're quite jaggedy movement. But it's getting their brains working, and lizards really need to, be made to think. And even when you guys are feeding your monitors, you know, don't always offer them food where they can find it. Hide it in the cage, you know, rub it on something and don't give them some food. Rub it on a stick and put it in the corner. They'll sniff it and try and find it, and they'll constantly be thinking, where's this food? And then when you do offer them the food, it's like the greatest gift of all, you know. They've actually found it and they've won.
I got to admit, since I've got the monitor... No,
I'm just going off on a rant.
Apologise, mate. Since I got the monitors, I've only got to feed them the once. The wife absolutely loves them. I tend to sleep in of a morning, and so when I come down of a morning to give them a feed, she's already been down and fed them. So she feeds them every second day. So I come down to give them a feed, and they're done. She loves them. Where with the snakes, I couldn't get her to touch the snakes. She'd clean a cage out, which I thought was amazing. I'd hold the snake while she'd clean it out. I thought that was great. To see her actually really getting involved. And the one part I really love is I see her out the back with the kids chasing down grasshoppers to feed to the bearded dragons and stuff like that. Now, to me, that's perfect. That's the ultimate part of reptile keeping there. Seeing her out the back with the kids chasing down the grasshoppers and stuff. So, love it, man.
That's also very beneficial to the animals because, you know, you're offering a different food item, and because they've been grazing naturally out in the bush, they're on different food groups. You know, their stomach contents are going to be different to captive bred crickets and all the rest of it, you know. So it's really, really good for the lizards nutritionally, and also because they're usually a different shape, you know, different body shape to a cricket. So they've got to think a little bit harder. What is that? Tongue flicker, Grasshoppers move differently to crickets. So, everything about that is positive. And just by doing that there is also part of the Better Care Challenge.
Thank you. Well, you can see I got over in the corner, I got the cricket set up.
You don't realise. Yeah, you don't realise how good that is, on so many different levels. Just by doing a simple thing like that can benefit. Even digging up earthworms and chucking them in there. Yeah. Like your boys, forest dragons, man, feed them earthworms.
Right,
wait till you see how they react.
Well, I'll get out there in the garden tomorrow and dig a couple out and see what happens. Right, now, thanks for the tip with that one. Now, I want to push on to, we're about 8 o'clock, so we're into about half hour. I'd like to post up, post of the week. So I'll see if I got this right here. Now, post of the week, that comes to us from Chelsea. Oh, I can't. Chelsea, something like that. Anyway, what it is, it's about US Ark, and US Ark, the Lacey Act is coming back on the table. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah.
You've heard?
Yeah, I mean, being distant, not really, but it's just going to be problematic. Like we sort of discussed last week and touched on it. The Lacey Act is the prevention of the 4 large constrictors, being reticulated pythons, Burmese pythons, anacondas, and I'm pretty sure it was some of the African rock pythons. Maybe they were the 4 large pythons that are trying to put a restriction on moving across state boundaries. So some states you could keep them, but you're not allowed to breed them and then sell them across the state lines, which is problematic, obviously, for those guys who've really had no licensing, no controls at all. So, to them, it's like losing guns. It turns into another giant crap fight, really. But so to hear that the Lacey Act's coming back or going to have some sort of an amendment to fight, I mean, that's something for these guys to be concerned about. And they're usually pretty good, pretty switched on and, pretty conjoined together. They really, really work well together, those guys.
Yeah, I thought I'd like to make that post of the week to draw attention to the shit fight that we're going to have here in Australia if we don't pull our act together and have something like US Ark set up here in Australia. Now, we've got Animal Care Australia, and that's what we touched on last week. And at the moment, I think that's our only real option for an Australian united front is Animal Care Australia. And if we don't pull our finger out and really get behind it, we've got the Animal Justice Party, which is going to cause us one hell of a problem like they're facing over there in the States. So that's why I wanted to make that the post of the week this week, to kind of, again, draw attention to this Animal Care Australia and the fact that it needs our support, our help and our funding. And yeah, we got one hell of a fight coming up with Animal Justice Party. We haven't even got a united front, and they've got a person in Parliament. That's how far behind we are. They've got someone in Parliament making decisions already. So, people in Parliament are just going to vote along with people in Parliament, people that they know. And we haven't even got a united club. So we're way behind the 8 ball to start with. So that's my post of the week. But what we got, and again, I'm looking over, man, we're still holding 326 people. So while we've got so many going,
well, thanks guys.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Many here. Let's have a crack at pick of the week, and we'll get you guys to vote on pick of the week. And it'll again, we'll bring them up 1, 2, 3. You guys let us know 1, 2, 3 which ones you want to see as the ultimate winner sort of thing. And then Pete and I will break in. We'll have a bit of a discussion about some of the animals Pete's kept and what he's keeping and what he plans on keeping. And then we'll go through. We'll tally up some answers and let you guys know what we're who won pick of the week. So for the first one. What have I got here? For the first one, Mick Fullerton. Now, I found this over on Aussie Reptile Club. Now, this is a photo of, it's an amazing Stimson python with, just the eyes, the tongue shot, just, everything you need for a really good photo. So that was Matt Fullerton. Second one is Roman Mueller. I think it is. I believe it is. Now, I found this photo over on the Reptile Report. Now, it's a blue tree monitor. So I just, you know, I'm blown away by the green ones, and bam, here they are in blue. You know,
and
seriously, yellow is.
You get them in yellow too,
I cannot wait till I do an American trip with you. I'm so far behind the times, man. So that was number 2, and number 3, I've got noble reptiles. Now, to me, these are just cute as cute albino geckos. So there you go, guys. 1, 2, and 3. You guys let us know which one you'd like to see as pick of the week, photo of the week. Vote up, load all your comments up, and we'll go through. We'll tally them up, and we'll post the winner photo later on. So best of luck to
a reptile. A true snake keeper's kryptonite is a knobtail gecko. Those little faces, those little cute, those big eyes.
So you're wanting to push for number 3, huh?
Hey, whoa.
Favoritism. Favoritism plays on this show, man. Anyone plays on this show.
I'm not saying nothing, man. I'm not saying nothing. Anyone that knows me should. There's 3 awesome pictures there, and you know it's very hard to choose.
There's a bit of variety tonight, isn't there? So you got gecko, you got. It's awesome. We'll see what the people choose. We've got, I can see plenty of numbers coming through at the moment. The little cousins got some little app running, so it tallies up. And I can tell you at the moment, number 1's up to 45%. Nice. Number 2's up to 30%. And what's number 3 sitting at? Number 3, I can't tell you what number 3's sitting at. There you go. That's gone white for some reason.
That's a secret.
Yeah, but we'll find that one out. So let's talk. Well, all this is happening, and people are voting. Let's. Jack, best of luck trying to. All right, so let's talk.
Extra six tail come in handy. Trust me.
Let's talk antaresia. Let's talk venomous. Let's talk geckos, monitors. You name it. You've pretty well kept it. Is that a fair statement?
I've kept a lot of stuff. So yeah, I guess it might be a fair statement. I mean, lizards, geckos, monitors, dragons, skinks, good variety across the board. Then venomous. Kept venomous for a long period of time. I did mobile reptile educational shows, so that enabled me to keep crocodilians in New South Wales, and I had a few freshies, salties, and then I did all my appropriate paperwork, and I was able to get alligators and boa constrictors as well, something no one else could actually get their hands on. So yeah, I guess I've been very spoiled.
That is something I did not know, that you were able to get those back in the day. Were they through an amnesty, or how'd you get your hands on them?
No, it was through my, so in New South Wales, you operate under the Department of Agriculture, DPI, Department of Primary Industry. So, therefore, you are classified as a mobile zoo as such, which means you've got to comply to all the standards that a zoo complies to, as in caging, maintenance, all your maintenance and husbandry stuff, as well as, your dietary, educational component information, training. So you can't just turn around and go, I want to get a boa constrictor, I'm going to apply for a license, because it ain't going to happen. And so you're going to go through all those hoops. And then with the exotic stuff, there again, it took a lot of hard work. It took me, I'm pretty sure it took me around about 5 years to get the permits for the alligators and the boa constrictors. There was a whole list of stuff that I had. Then I've got to source them from, another zoo, basically. So some zoos don't want to give you stuff because you're a private guy, and they don't really look at private people. And some other zoos look at you as a competition, direct competition. So, you know, they'll make it very hard for you to get your animals. So it was very difficult at the time, but it worked out, and I was able to get them, and I had them for quite a few years, and those animals were absolutely amazing for educational purposes.
Since you got to keep exotics, did you get to keep any tortoises as well, or did you have tortoises in the collection? No.
No, I was only allowed to keep what I applied for. So I had to apply for the animals. I had to tell them the cage sizes. I had to tell them everything else. They would assess that. It would go to a non-Indigenous vertebrate committee. So there was a whole committee of, you know, really smart people that would sit down and go, is this a good idea giving this guy these animals? So they'd go through and assess all the paperwork, assess your criteria, and then, you know, when and if they did approve you, where are you going to get the animals from, and then what's your disposal method? So there's always, you know, how are these animals going to be housed after the event? It's not just, let him have the animals. It's, you know, if you go bust, if you go broke, if you die, if something bad happens, what happens to these animals? The animals are going to be rehoused somehow. So even before you get approval to keep the animals, you've got to have approval. So basically you've got to work out an agreement where you get the animals from that you give them back to them. So, you know, they might say you've got to buy them, you use them for a couple of years, and then when you want to get rid of them or when they hit their size restriction, you've got to give them back, and then you've got to try and find someone else. So it can be a bartering system, and, you know, it can be difficult. So, yeah, it was one of those things, and I was able to work with it. And there was another guy, Ben Britton, who now runs the Wildcat Centre in Sydney. He was another guy who worked in the zoo industry. He actually had Burmese and alligators on his permit, so him and I were both had, you know, something in common. And then basically I pulled out of the mobile education thing because my work commitments, as well as, you know, other things that were playing in the background, just really were wearing me down. So Ben went off, and he was the only guy left behind, and he was able to then turn his mobile zoo permit into a full-blown zoo. So he's got basically a good zoo collection now, and he's got tortoises. Lucky him.
Yeah, I'd love a tortoise. I've got to admit, I gave the license up for 3 years, and for 3 years I was very tempted to go to the dark side and get myself an exotic tortoise. But I'm glad I didn't, because I've come back to the light. I've got the license, doing everything above the board, and got some monitors and dragon skulls. So I'm glad I didn't go to the dark side, but I was very tempted. Just for a tortoise, though. I'm not sure why a tortoise, but for some reason a tortoise. I'd love a pet tortoise. Anyway, so cool. you gave all that up due to work commitments and whatnot.
Yep.
When did it decide to go from work to full time snake keeper breeder? Because you're a plumber, aren't you, by trade?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I'm a plumber by trade, but for the last 20 odd years I've been doing large commercial roofing. So I've been doing basically every large shopping centre in the Sydney metro area, even Sydney International Airport. I did a lot of work on there. Then, you know, you had the Olympics come through, so all the big rush to build all these giant things. I was part of that, and you know, early in my days, I was one of the crazy guys to get up, clamber up the steel structures, run across the steel, and do all sorts of weird wonderful things. And towards the end of my time, you know, I'm the guy that's coming out to the job, inspecting the job, and doing the quality assurance, and just being a project manager, you know. And still, you know, like if other guys were laying roof sheets or doing some work, I'd jump in and give them a hand, because number one, I still like to get back in and have a go. Number two, I don't like to see people struggle, and you know, it keeps me fit. I like to keep fit, you know. I like to keep moving.
And then when?
So yeah, it just got to the point where I was more of a babysitter, basically. You know, I had 43 guys underneath me, and my job constantly was to keep an eye on them, manage personalities, manage everyone's problems. And it just sort of built up and built up and built up. And I think it was around about 2015, I think. I just sort of woke up one morning and had a premonition, and I just said, I'm done, you know. I'm done doing this, and I really want to pursue the other part of it. And I've always kept reptiles for as long as I can remember in some shape or form. But obviously in the last what are we in now? 2020. In the last 20 years, since we moved to where we are now, it's you know, and it's definitely off in a different tangent. You know, prior to us moving where we are, I kept a lot of venomous, kept a lot of lizards. Venomous was just out of pure interest. Lizards was because of fascination. I did have pythons, so a lot of my older pythons I still have. Antaresia caught my eye in the sort of early 90s, so I stuck with that. And, you know, I was swapping guys like Jared Sharp. I was swapping him bloody black-headed pythons for maculosus, some spotted pythons. And he's just like looking at me, shaking his head, going, "You're crazy, you know, you're crazy. You're swapping." You know, black-headed pythons back in the mid-90s was like $2,500. Here I'm swapping these guys because I could breed these, and I had them. I want to trade this for, you know, 3 or 4 max. And this guy's like, "You're crazy. You know, these things are only worth a couple $100." But to me, that's what I was interested in, and I was happy to do those trades, you know. And like I always think I'm very fortunate because I was lucky to fall in with guys like John Montgomery, Peter Krause, Rob Porter, you know, all these really good guys that really have a high standing in the hobby already. And I got to learn different things about the hobby and progress before it became, you know, a hobby really, in New South Wales anyway. So, you know, it's definitely gone off at a different tangent for me. And, you know, everyone sees what I have now. And the reality is everyone gets to come into my collection twice a week. I don't know how many other reptile keepers do that, you know. It's me and my wife that do all the cleaning and feeding and everything. And, you know, it is what it is, you know. It's my collection, and I love my animals.
That's what I found when back when I was YouTubing. Prior to YouTubing, the hobby was very open and everyone was going into everyone else's collection, and quarantine and whatnot wasn't really a big thing. And then quarantine kicked in and no one was allowed in anyone else's room. And that's what I found with YouTube, and was a way to still stay in contact with people, invite people in to show them what you were doing, what you're working on. And that's, I loved it. I got to tell you, I got addicted to it from when I got sick and gave everything up. That was what I missed the most out of all the reptiles and all that sort of stuff, was going around to other reptile keepers' houses, talking to them, looking at how they do stuff, looking at their collection, looking for different tricks or tips that they might do that I can take home and put into my collection. That was what I missed the most. So
definitely. And like you say, it's an opportunity to showcase your collection to a greater audience that would never normally get to see your animals, because let's put it quite blunt, guys in Western Australia or in America, how often are they going to come to Australia and get to see your collection? Probably never, you know. So it's a great way you can showcase your collection. It gives you verification that, you know, you do have a cool collection and you're going in the right direction and you're working on some really cool animals. But also, you know, why shouldn't we be proud of what we do? Like, you know, I'm proud of my animals. I love my animals. You know, would I keep them if they're worth $1? Yes. And I prove that, you know, like if my animals don't sell, they stay here forever. This is their forever home. I don't, you know, do I really want to sell animals? And people will say, "Oh, he's hard to deal with. He doesn't really want to sell his animals." No, not really. No, I'm happy to hang on to them.
I remember at a sale one time, a guy,
you know,
he wanted yearling albino olives. I had none for sale, and he kept pestering me. Yeah, I want some yearling albino olives. And after 3 or 4 messages of saying I got none for sale, I sent him a message back saying, "No, 15,000." And he went off saying, "You know, that's too much, yada, yada, yada." Because I don't want to friggin' sell them. You know, you are going to have to pay to get them out of my hands. I do not want this sale. And I did not know how else to put that through to the guy than to put an extra 5,000 on what these snakes were kind of worth. But, guy had more money than brains, so...
It can be hard at times. I mean, you know, it is good to sell animals because we all need to produce animals to sell, to make money, to pay, to feed, to house, to heat, to clean, all the other animals. That doesn't happen for free, trust me. And I mean, if you go to work at a normal job and you have an hourly rate, Why can't you have the same hourly rate working from home? And you got to really bring that into context. And you and I were speaking today about, do the animals pay for themselves? You know, the animals need to recuperate, regardless of what business it is. They need to recuperate their expenditure. And I mean, it's like all farming, and the hobby should be no different. You know, like everyone wants to buy a couple of animals. Everyone wants to experience breeding their animals, but no one wants to admit that they're doing it just because they want the money, or, you know, they want to go to an expo and be a breeder and all that. You know, like there's nothing wrong with that. It's just to be open and honest about it, you know.
I was lucky. I had a reputation for breeding olives. Now, I didn't have the funding to go and get the albino olives, but I had enough nous to get those albino olives in my collection, with knowing I was good at breeding olives. So, you know, working out percentage deal, all that sort of stuff, I knew I could get albinos in the collection that way, and that opened up extra funding. And I don't know why people whinge and bitch about people making money out of breeding snakes. When I started making money out of breeding snakes, that helped fund a magazine, that helped fund an expo, that helped fund a shop. You know, that helped fund the YouTube and all those toys. That wasn't cheap setting up. You know, I need a new laptop, camera, shotgun mic. Yeah, you know what it's like, and they don't give that stuff away. Yeah,
goes on and on
software
and on.
gear, yada yada yada.
No.
You can try making coin out of snakes.
It's like driving into the servo.
Yeah, go, mate, go.
Yeah, it's like driving into a servo and going, you know, you mind if I just fill my car up and drive off, because, you know, I don't really want to pay for this, and you guys make a lot of money out of this, so you should be able to just give it to me. Unfortunately, you know, everyone has to pay their way, some shape or form, and now, you know, it is what it is. It's one of my favourite sayings. It is what it is.
One thing I ditched as soon as I become a professional snake breeder, I pretty well went away with mates rates. You know how when you're coming up through the hobby, you got mates rates and all that sort of stuff. As soon as I become a professional reptile breeder, I've done away with mates rates, and every time I had a mate hit me up, you know, for a couple $100 off a reptile, I said to him, well, that's like me just hitting you up for a couple $100 next time we go to the pub. You know, just give us a couple $100 because I want to drink it. I said, this is how I make my living to pay the bills and put food on the table for the kids and yada yada yada. You know, this is my job. I can't be doing that no more. So did you when you become a professional breeder, did you do away with like mates rates and stuff like that and become a little bit more professional with it, with that sort of side?
Well, what I did is I just remember the early days. So, you know, if you have good mates, you usually swap and trade between each other. So there was never any money involved. It was, you know, you want this, I'll give them to you. We can breed those, let me know. Maybe we can swap and trade. I still do a little bit of that, and I still do that with some good friends. And I like doing that. For me, that takes away the money value of it, and it brings me back to what it was all about. But the same thing, you know, if someone sends you a message and goes, oh, I noticed you got that snake for sale. I noticed you want 500 for it. How about I give you 400? And you're just like, and then they send you question mark, and it's like, you're not even going to evoke a response. You know, I've got so many things that I'm busy doing, and I do apologise to people for not responding to everyone, but I get spammed with so much. It's incredible. And, you know, and it's usually the people that are trying to buy animals off me are the ones that I ignore. They're the ones that I shouldn't be ignoring, right? Because that's money. But they're usually the ones I sort of push aside. If someone rings me for advice or sends me a message for advice, I'll answer that. I'll sit there and spend 10, 15 minutes. If someone wants to buy a particular snake, I'm like, you know, I've got a website,
it's backwards,
whatever. But I should be responding to those guys as well. And it's a bit backwards to me, you know, and that's because, you know, my understanding is, you know, people that are suffering and their animals are going to suffer. You know, if they can't get the information, there's going to have a roll-on effect. If someone wants an animal, they're going to buy it off me, and if they're not happy, they'll just buy it off someone else anyway. And I guess, you know, that's not great customer service, but, you know, if they do buy an animal off me and there's a problem, oh yeah, I'll back that up all the way to the health because it's animal welfare, and, you know, it's all about the animals' well-being. So, but yeah, I've really got to work on that part, and that's the one going to make it more profitable or make it more valuable for me to stay at home. So it's only been the last 5 years that I've really been staying at home on a full-time basis. And even then, in the last 5 years, I did 2.5 years of dropping back, doing part-time work, and did full-time work for another year. And I just went, you know what, done. You know, I'm too old to climb on a roof like a monkey anymore. I still can do it.
Nervous
I'm good at my trade, but...
Were you nervous taking the plunge into being a full-time breeder? Since they were only limited to an Australian market, we haven't got a global market. Was that scary for you to give everything up and say, this is it, this is what I'm doing for a living from now on?
Most definitely. And then you look at the thing like, I'm the dirt snake king, I call myself, because I guess, you know, we all need a great TV show. You know, watch out, Tiger King, here comes the dirt snake king. But in all reality, you know, I work with a particular species and I'm very successful with that. You know, how many children's pythons can you sell a year? And then how many years can you do that in a row and still make good money? You know, with such a small, isolated market. So, you know, you've really got to think about what you're doing sometimes. You know, like I say, I love the animals I work with, and probably not the greatest choice for making money. I mean, you look at the jags and the zebras and the granites. You look at how the carpet pythons exploded and how much money was involved in those early days. You know, $10,000 for the first albino Darwins. You know, I almost got caught in that little train, but you know, I pulled back and went, hang on a minute. Yeah, it's attractive and it's nice, but I'm not really a carpet python guy. I have carpet pythons. I breed carpet pythons, but I wouldn't call myself an expert or a person to go to. You know, I have a good little variety of stuff, but, you know, it's not my thing. Dirt snakes, oh, yeah, I love them. I love them inside out, you know, back to front, upside down, and that's what makes it interesting to me because I'm constantly learning about the animals I love. So. And I always try and encourage people... I always try and encourage people to keep something that is only for pure interest, not for money, not for anything else, just pure interest. Pick something that's always fascinated you. And I'm glad to see that you're getting into lizards because, like you said before, you were never really into lizards. And now you've cracked that shell. You've just gone, holy crap, there's a whole world here I've never seen or thought of before. And it's that true appreciation.
Yes,
you know, that's awesome to see.
About this time around, I'm wanting to do things with legs. Last time, the albino olives paid the bills, but I was a carpet python guy. I loved me carpet pythons, and the blackheads. They were the amount of money that I threw at those things, because they just eat those animals. But the olives paid the bills, so that was fine. But like you said, this time around, I wanted something totally outside of my comfort zone, something I'd never worked with before. And monitors, dragons, lizards. And let's start learning all again. And I'm having so much fun because it's all the stuff that I've never done the first time around, like not just keeping the lizards and the monitors, but keeping the crickets and learning how to breed the crickets, setting up the mealworms and learning how to breed mealworms, catching the grasshoppers with the kids, you know, when you're half blind, stuff like that. And like I think you said it might have been you. Might have been, I can't remember, someone said it, but as we're getting older, the ground's getting further and further away and it takes longer to get up and down and it's horrible. Anyway, I just brought up photo number 1 of one of your gorgeous albino spotted pythons. I believe it is.
Yes. Oh, right. She's sitting on eggs.
So I thought, as soon as they were talking about some of your critters, we better get some photos going. So that's pretty well what you were best. Alrighty, thank you. Mate, I just got before we get into showing off some of your snakes. I just got hot press report, whatever you want to call it. That's the one. That's the one. Fresh off the press, we got a hot report coming in. Vision racks. Now keep an eye out on Wednesday. I want to say head over to Reptiles Down Under. Keep an eye out on there for information on vision racks and maybe a price drop. So I'm hoping I read that out right. I double checked with the sponsors before the show if there was anything. They no, nothing yet, and they had a few problems this week, like the rest of us, and yeah, just run this one down to me. So
yeah. Wow. Well, hopefully they've allowed for the Australian dollar and for freight, because it can be tricky importing stuff, as I have learned.
Have we even cracked the 70 cent mark yet? Where are we sitting? I think last I seen we were
I think we're still sitting at about.
Yeah, that's last I seen. We were pushing on 66, and it was yuck. Because I know you look at that stuff for your American trips and whatnot as well. So yeah,
have to take all that into consideration. But more importantly, let's talk about antaresia.
Let's get on to number one. That was an albino. I had that sitting up there for a bit. I'm not sure if you could see that. I had that up there for a bit, but an old girl sitting on eggs. Number two. Now that's a girl maternally incubating, is it? Or you got a tent gun there at 29 degrees.
Yes. So that's so obviously when we keep these animals in captivity, you know, we want 100% success rate, and it's not always the way, but we bust our chops doing it, you know. And the early 90s is sort of, well, the late 80s, early 90s is when we actually first recognised that we could breed these animals in captivity. Up until then, people were keeping animals. One or two guys would, you know, magically pick up an animal that was full of eggs and it would lay eggs, and they did a captive breeding. So we learned a lot in those very first years, and then it wasn't until we learned that, you know, the animals need to cool to actually go into cooling cycles to help produce sperm. Females will then, you know, go into ovulations and all stuff like that. So it wasn't until sort of the mid-90s that we started learning this stuff, as you would have known, because you would have had a bit of experience with Kel Worley, who's another great python breeder from back in the day. And then, you know, you go to the flip side, you know, incubation, looking Victorite used to be the medium of choice, and perlite was the secondary one, and then you could do a combination of both. And I don't know about you, but back in the old days, I used to get ice cream containers, put the vermiculite in there, get the lid of the ice cream container, cut a hole in the window, put the Glad wrap on top, and click it on top like a madman. And then, you know, you put it in your homemade incubator, which typically was just a box or a styrofoam box or whatever, with a couple of light globes on either end. And every day you'd go in there, open it up, and you'd fan it religiously, giving the oxygen exchange and making sure that all this was happening, you know. And then if you're lucky, you get to 60-odd days, and you're blessed to have something to hatch. You know?
I come along just after that, when refrigerators were getting converted into incubators. So, I come along a couple of years after you.
Yeah, so that's high tech. High tech for us. Very high tech. But back in those early days, you know, you start learning things, like you look at the eggs, and then you start realising, you know, the medium's too moist, you're getting a lot of mould outbreaks, you're getting condensation on the lids dropping down on the eggs, causing little windows or little snowflake sort of shapes, and that can kill the eggs. And then I just sort of, towards the 98, so I bred my first spotted pythons in around about 1998, and, you know, Spot was, everyone knows my mate Spot that I got in 96, you know, and I got a female for him that was hatched in 96 as well, so he's hatched in 95. So, you know, basically he's a 20-odd year animal with his girlfriend. So I put those guys together, bred them in 1998, got my first eggs. I wasn't really, you know, I had other things in my incubator. I was into lizards, so I had, I had the southern rainforest dragons, I had water dragons, I had bearded dragons, I had central netted dragons, and I know you want them, so just chill. I had mountain dragons, I had, you know, Pictus, like painted dragons, and I also had things like Collette's black snake eggs, you know, and I had some diamond python eggs, which I highly prized, you know, and all this sort of that stuff. And these guys sort of got pushed aside, and I went, oh, I'm not really ready. And then, you know, she laid them, wrapped around them. I wasn't really checking on her as much as I should. And a week later, I noticed that she was sitting in this little bowl in the back corner. I'm like, oh no, what have I done? You know, it's too late. They're all dead. And I thought, no, I'll just let this journey continue. And that's where the learning continues, you know, and it opens your mind, and you start looking at these animals. And that's where you realise, basically, you know, there's not much moisture involved in this incubation technique that they're doing. And if you watch if you watch them, they move around. And I do it a lot more now. Like I've been doing it every year since, and I do it 1 or 2 clutches. But for the last 3 years, I've been doing a lot more clutches, more maternal incubation than not. And that was because of the albino project to try and strengthen the genes, and hopefully that the incubation, taking the whole incubation out of the equation, to prove that the incubation temperatures weren't the issue here when we're talking about the genes and how they're kinked. So I went down that road, and then basically this picture that we've got here depicts the temperature that they will pick to lay their eggs. So regardless of what the heat gradient is in the enclosure, you could be 28 at the front, 36 at the back. The female will sit on the heat all the time like a heat hog. She'll go to lay the eggs, but when she wants to lay the eggs, she'll move away from that heat, and she'll find somewhere about 29 to 30 degrees, right about that. And then she'll just, if there's a hide box there, it's great. If there's a water bowl there, not so great. But if that's the temperature they want, they will dump their eggs in that spot, and then they'll wrap around them and sit there. And that's one of the things I've learned.
Incubation time at 29 degrees, maternally incubating with the antaresia. What are we looking at there? 50 days, or?
So normally, normally in an incubator, we can get them to hatch in about 41 to 43 days. I think it's the best I've had. But outside the incubator, if they're a consistent temperature, then you can get very similar. You can get about 46 to 50 days. But in its worst case scenario, 55, maybe 10 to 12 days longer. But really not a problem. I back in the early days, I kept a lot of data because I'm a very analytical guy. I did a lot of work with a lot of academics. So I was involved in a lot of academic studies, going out into the rainforest, catching lizards, weighing, doing morphometrics and pushing thermometers up bums of lizards and stuff like that, which we probably shouldn't say. Sorry, kids. But all that sort of stuff came into, just makes me hungry for more information. So, from day dot, I would see how many eggs I've got. I'd weigh the female, weigh the egg mass, and you go, okay, this is sort of a correlation. And, all that information slowly over time acquires into this great pool of data. Egg sizes, lengths, diameters, weights of individual eggs. And I mean, you guys, carpet guys and olive python breeders, you guys are so friggin' spoiled. I mean, pulling eggs apart is so easy. When you're pulling these antaresia eggs apart, especially Pathensis and Pygmy bandeds, man, I tell you what, it's the most nerve-wracking thing in your life. Worried about these eggs tearing, the rest of it. And that's just so that you can weigh and measure the egg and then put it in the box, and number it, and off you go.
Cover before I forget them. One, if you tore an egg, how would you fix it up? Would it be liquid paper? Would it be a bit of tape? How would you, if you tore an egg open when you're separating them, how would you fix the egg up?
I used to use wax.
Candle wax?
A few guys would use wax, but you got to watch dropping hot wax on there. You're increasing, boom. You could cause hemorrhages and stuff. So early on, I would use that, and then had mixed sort of results. I wasn't really happy with standing there with a candle dropping wax. So there again, you can get a little bit of Glad wrap, cut a little square, and just stick it over. And once that exposed albumin starts to become tacky, it just sort of adheres, and you don't really get a bacterial infection at all. As long as the medium's pretty dry, a little bit drier, it doesn't hurt.
Maternally incubating, the reason why I like to artificially incubate, well, when I was back breeding them, was as soon as I got the eggs off the female, that meant the sooner I could get food back into her, which meant I could start prepping her for next year's breeding season. If you're maternally incubating and it goes that little bit longer, is your female still able to back up the next year to breed again, or do they have the 12 months off?
Yeah, they will breed again, and I've got a couple of females there that have done it for 5 years in a row, and so the data says it can be done, but you got to be smart about it. You don't see a snake sitting on eggs and then go, I'm going to feed it, because when a snake grabs and constricts, it forgets all about the eggs being there. It'll just constrict your eggs pile too. So sometimes you got to wait for the snake to come off the eggs, or you find the snake moving around the tub, having a drink, getting some moisture and stuff like that. You can feed the snake on the eggs sometimes, depending on the snake. You got to know a bit more about the personality of the animal. But whenever I'm feeding a female sitting on eggs, I always feed them a half-size food item, something just to get in the system, get a little bit of recovery going on. And once those eggs hatch, I tell you what, once those eggs hatch, I don't bother with mice. I just hit them with the hopper rats. The hopper rats put the weight back on them real quick, And I think I've said this a million times, 26 good feeds in between laying eggs and the next season, and you'll consistently keep producing animals, good quality animals. And it's good recovery for the females.
So a little tip here from Darren Boswell. He, like a lot of us, he likes to keep a lot of his reptile eggs, so he keeps some of his eggs from last year as well. And if he's got one that's laid this year and separating them, and it tears a bit, he just cuts a bit of shell out from last year's egg and puts that on. And there seems to
that's a good idea.
Seconds. So something I've never heard of.
It's a great idea. I just when you maternally incubate, you don't separate the eggs anymore, so I don't tear too many eggs anymore. But I mean, the same instance, if you're there when they're dropping eggs, then you're right, you're on the hot spot. But if you tear an egg, then you can be in some serious trouble.
Yeah.
Great tip, Darren.
I moved on to the next photo. It's another girl wrapped up on a clutch of eggs. Looks like she's maternally incubated as well. They look like they're sucked in and whatnot. So it's another spotter python.
Yeah, if you actually look in between the two coils on the right hand side of it, you'll see a little head popping out.
Oh yeah.
So that's the eggs hatching. So a lot of people say, how do you do it? And I've done shows on it, but basically what I do is I get the sphagnum moss, I moisten it up, I give it a good squeeze, drain as much moisture out. I'll put that in with the female once she's had a pre-lay shed. So, pre-lay shed to egg deposition can be 2 to 3 weeks. She'll get in there, she'll sort of move it around, push it and shape it the way she wants it. Within 3 weeks, that basically sphagnum moss is dry, so it's just a dry, but she's already got sort of the basis of where she is. She's happy with it. It can form a bit of coverage to make her feel secure. And she'll lay the eggs in there, wrap up around them and just sit there. The females will move off the eggs to drink. You'll actually notice them drink, and then sometimes they'll sort of cruise through the water and then go back to the eggs, and they sort of go back and coil around the eggs and sort of wrap around until they feel comfortable and then sit there again. And what they're doing is transferring some moisture back to the eggs. So the eggs will look a little bit crappier than they will in an incubator. And that picture there is a good example of how much they sort of dry up and how much moisture they lose. But like all eggs, when it comes time to hatching, the eggs magically will separate. They sort of disengage. No longer is that sticky glue stuff adhering anymore. It could be if we could find out what that is, it would be the greatest super glue in the world. But the only problem is if we put it to something together and they go to hatch, they'll just pop apart. Who knows what's causing there? It's obviously something to do with the gas exchange going on in that last development part of the egg in the embryo, and that sort of they disengage, they become very thin, pliable, and then obviously, they tear out. And through that, just maternal incubating, I've found that I have a higher success in incubation. So more babies survive. They come out bigger, stronger, more robust. And with some of these deleterious genes, as in the albinos and that, they typically come out more viable, so a lot stronger, more robust, and more willing to feed.
That's promising.
So
right. So moving on to the next photo. Yeah. Now I've got looks like a mixed bag. I can see.
Yep.
Looks like a stripy one. There's a semi in there, platinum. Looks like just a dirty great big mixed bag, mate.
Mixed bag of awesomeness. So, basically this is where I'm throwing down the gauntlet to you carpet python breeders. The dirt snakes might have taken. We may have taken a little while to catch up, but trust me, when we have such natural, and this is an example of natural beauty, really. But you know, we've got such a great ability to find these goods, you know, at our fingertips. These are some of the earlier stuff that we were working with until, you know, all the recessive genes popped up in the antaresias. So, you know, and trust me, there's codoms are coming. There's some codom stuff coming. And it'll blow your socks off.
Folks. There you
Yeah,
go, folks.
I believe so. I believe so.
out.
And I mean, well, you know, Colin Ray's going to take a bit of a bow for that. He's already got one out of the bag, and it's good to see that he's gone through the process of eliminating. And I guess after this year's results, he'll definitely confirm what he believes. But I reckon he's got a codom gene there, so we'll see how we go.
I just want to read something here, mate. It's from Natasha Mills. I'm still a newbie and I've been doing a bit of research on black-headed pythons, and I'm finding a mix on the info about feeding. Some say don't feed bigger than mice. Some say it doesn't make a difference. Can you clear this up? I know you used to work with them. Well, you still work with black-headed pythons, Peter?
Yeah, I've got some black-headed pythons there, and I mean, I got one there that I bred in 1996, and you know, she's a nice, big, robust animal, and yeah, I feed her big food items, but I don't feed her a lot of food items, you know. So, and I know, you know, is she a breeding animal? Not really. I don't sort of. She's just an enjoyment animal. I've got a couple other blackheads there. Maybe I'll breed those, but yeah, when it comes to producing on a regular basis, that's up to someone like yourself in Denver to answer those questions. You know what I mean? I've bred them a couple of times over the years, but really haven't gone crazy about them.
They feed bigger than mice. Now, to me, yeah, I'm assuming she's talking hatchling, and yeah, as soon as you can get it on the rats, go nuts. Yeah, but we used to chop ours up a bit with. We'd go rats, and then every now and then it'd be chicken necks or turkey necks or something, quail or something like that. Every now and then, yeah, we'd spice it up a bit. It wasn't always rats, but we never fed big fatty rats. We always kept our rats under the 200 gram mark for the big snakes because of that fatty liver disease. So I always used to like to feed off lean rats, but I'd like to chop it up with chicken necks and turkey necks and all that sort of stuff as well. Just change it up, really.
I think back in the early days, you know, people used to grow their own rats in the back shed and cut as many corners as they could. You know, they'd feed their rats dog food, kibble, and God knows what else. And unfortunately, dog food has very high fat content and then obviously very high protein. And when that transfers to things like rodents, you know, you're causing some problems in the rodents, which really isn't a big problem because they're just feeders, right? But unfortunately, that high fat content then goes to your snake. It accumulates, and you end up with fatty liver syndrome. So you get a lot of fat building up on the liver, and the liver can't break it down in its natural way. So therefore, you know, you'd have all these big black-headed pythons dropping off the radar with this fatty liver syndrome. And Bob Whitty was a guy that, you know, basically brought all this out in the open back in the mid-90s and said, you know, this is what we've been doing, this is what's happening, this is wrong, you know, we need to change. So, and I know Bob and Kel were really good friends, you know, and there's a great relationship, where people share information back in the early days too, you know, it's awesome. So once again, like Troy said, mice, get them off the mice, especially those bigger animals. They do benefit from rats very quickly.
In the past, I wasn't lucky enough to meet him. Like you said, I was lucky enough to meet Kel Worley, and he was good. He shared a lot of info, and him and Bob were really good mates. So I got to hear a lot of info and a lot of stories through Kel about Bob. But yeah, I think people forget back when you and I, well, you started before me, but we started, you know, pre-Facebook and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, it was I don't know, it was a good time and a bad time. So our new modern time's got its time and place, I reckon. You know, I think it's good that we're so openly connected, but I miss the intimacy of the old days. if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. The face-to-face value is definitely far better than this internet sort of stuff. And, that was before the APS, where everyone had the little pseudo name that they hid behind or exposed themselves. And then Facebook came along and pushed those things aside. And, there's all these layers. And at the end of it and behind it all is, all these guys that started the hobby basically, which, I still look up to and respect because they're so humble.
Yeah, Brian Barnett, there's another one. I remember talking to Brian once and he was telling me an amazing story that they used to go and buy electric blankets and pull the heat cord out of the electric blankets to warm up the snakes and stuff like that. Peter Krause telling me, they'd go herping, they'd make sure they've always got a couple of fake plastic snakes to put in the middle of the road because you knew Rex Stock was only an hour behind him or something and stuff like that. Moved on to the next photo, so I've got photo number 5 up. Now, again, this is a big mixed bag, but on the next level. Next level indeed. Go.
So obviously, this has got a fair few representations of the recessive genes that we're working with. So the albino gene in the spotted python. Yeah. You got T+, T positive, caramel albino in the children's, and the 2 in the stimmy. You got platinums in there. You got a bit of everything. There's even there's a bit of everything in there.
Is there a paradox in there?
Sorry?
A paradox.
There's what? Yeah, there's a paradox. Paradox T+ in there, yeah. And I mean that's another cool thing that's just popping up out of random. So just like the carpets, it's popping up in the antaresia, and there's even paradox albinos too. So it's pretty amazing what's starting to come through.
Good one. Well,
it's just a great. I mean, when you see them like that, it really makes
I remember seeing
impact.
Jay Brewer's photos of the retics like that. He'd do a retic photo like that, and you just look at it and think, one day here in Australia we'll have something like that, and there it is. I'm not sure how old that. Well, I'm not sure how old that photo is, but yeah, we're getting there, and the carpets they might have hit. Fast and whatnot, but I don't think the race is over, man. I'm not sure if it's going to be hare and tortoise sort of a story with the antaresia and carpets, because the antaresia are coming thick and fast at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few guys out there working really, really doing a lot of different projects, and I mean, they're looking at the combination stuff. It's the same again with the carpets in the early days. They're looking at, the double and triple gene and quadruple gene combinations, trying to produce the first animals. So it's only going to be, I reckon this year we're going to see a few more double combinations. We might even see a triple combination this year. We don't know, But there's quite a few guys out there working pretty good. I mean, Dave Evans, there's Marty Berhaglia, Colin Ray, just to name a few, And then there's a lot of younger fellas coming through too, like the young fellas, Unreal Reptiles. There's Jake and Eden. They're really doing some outstanding stuff. And I mean, there's, not to be biased, but there's so many guys out there working with these, which is awesome. And it really gives me some verification. When we wrote the book back in 2013 about children's pythons, and they're like, it's something a little bit different. With the guys who did the carpet python book, Nick and Justin, and it really sort of pushed the point that the children's pythons there's some cool stuff here, and it's just going to get so much better. And in the next 5 years, that's nearly 7 years ago now. Well, it is 7 years. So the next 5 years, we're still going to see the fruits of all that hard work.
So what you're saying is there's going to be another children's pythons book another couple of years down the track? Yeah.
I would envisage, yes.
Well,
I would say so, yes.
It's going to be outdated in a couple of years the way that you guys are going.
Or more revised.
So...
Yeah, well, a lot of the stuff that we were working back on prior to the book, some of the genetics, we weren't really sure of how it was working, or, if it was codom, if it was recessive, or whether it was polygenic. So we weren't really sure about it. So since then, I know what I've been doing, my work, and I know how I can prove things out, and I can backtrack it all. So, through my results, I can now say that, it's now proven to be this because of this, this, and this results.
Amazing.
Now, and here it is,
I come so close
And
to
that's
that feeling.
that's
Sorry, keep going.
the thing. No, you did. I know what you're saying. It's so difficult to do that, and I guess for the antaresia, we're lucky. 18 months, you've got a sexually mature animal. As long as the males are 100 grams, females are 250.
Yeah.
You're going to produce some eggs. But with carpets, you could be 2 to 3 years, depending on how you
Yep.
hit or miss. And then that's only if they cycle. If they don't cycle, you could
Well,
be
my boy,
30
he
years.
was that
It's crazy.
porcelain boy. He was a lazy bastard. He was fat and lazy,
Yeah.
and it was impossible to get him to breed. And I was lucky to get the ones that I did get, and I only used him over virgins. And so they were, they were excitable, but they didn't know what they were doing half the time, so they weren't much help. And you throw another male in to try and spare him up, and they just have her, But anyway, that's I got to like 96% there, as in I was happy enough, but I didn't produce. I didn't get to breed the offspring together. I got to do the F1 back cross, and I got to see the results. And to me, right, I can call it comfortably when I'm going to sell this project. I can sell it comfortably knowing the results. But again, I only had one clutch and a small number.
Yeah.
I never got a big clutch, and I never got to do offspring to offspring to really 100% cement it, where Jared's been able to do that. So, lucky bugger.
Yeah, and that's the hard part too, is making sure that you get the numbers that are going to satisfy all the naysayers basically. So, if you get a clutch of 2 or 3 because you've struggled or you cracked them early or the rest of it, the results might skew your overall data because the next year you might get 20 and hang on, how did I miss that? And I got that back then. And so it's a little bit difficult, but if you do a couple of out crossings, then it's regardless. No one can. And you can reproduce those things on a regular basis, then you know exactly what's going on.
For me to call it was I done the F1 back cross, and only 4 eggs come through. I only managed to get 4 eggs to hatch.
Yeah.
And what made it hard was I didn't get the wild type. I got 4 entries, or 4 possible entries. For me, it's I don't know if entry is the right word for the mutation, but it's definitely something. But I got four visuals and no wild type, and I wanted that. I wanted that wild type to really cement in that. Yes, these are the visuals, because I could only guess what the visuals were going to look like as hatchies. When this boy come to me, he was fully grown.
That's right.
So anyway,
makes it
I
difficult.
moved on to the next photo, and it's a very looks like a very clean looking spotted albino spotted from hatchie, and then again as a yearling, I'm assuming, or 18 months, something like that. Is that correct? Or
yeah, that's right. So basically, with the albino stuff, it's quite amazing how much they change in a year, as in colour and pattern. And, I see a lot of people in a rush to breed these things and sell them. That's great. You make your money back on your project and all the rest of it. But then, a year later, you see the animals and you kick yourself. So, it's a difficult thing. But like I said, I like looking at a lot of pretty cool things. So, and that's just that animal was like an orange animal with purple on it, and then you look at it now and it's white contrast, and sort of really high contrast. He's going to shed soon, and when he sheds, I tell you what, that thing is it's probably the pride of my fleet. That there puts a lot of hard work into one picture, really, because that stripe stuff is a polygenic, so that's a line bred gene that I did. Took me 10 years to produce a nice full lined animals, and then I was out crossing the albinos, and what else can I use to try and increase strength and vigor in this line? Well, I know the stripe stuff's pretty good because I've been working with that for so long, so I chucked that in, not thinking that this would be any chance of a result. And I produced some 50% hets, grew them up, just picked 2 of those because they were close enough to the right size, chucked them together, and boom, this guy pops out. He was the first one out, crawls out of the egg. He was snappy like a normal Mac. Offered him food, he was straight on the food and never looked back, and it was just like, wow, what happened there?
So
it was like winning the odds.
No kinks down towards the tail or anything. He's a nice perfect boy. Oh,
Beautiful. No
God,
kinks
that
anymore.
you got to feel
I've
good about that.
as I used oh yeah, as I used to joke, I've ironed all the kinks out of the project now.
Well,
So,
you helped me a lot with the albino olives.
but
I
yeah,
remember I was talking to you years ago and complaining about the amount of kinks I was getting,
yeah,
and you asked me how incubation temp, and I told you I was going low because I read with albinos
yeah,
you're supposed to go low, and you advised go a little bit higher, and that you found by going higher you've got our healthier, stronger animal sort of thing, more robust, yada yada yada. And I'd done that one
yep,
year, and bugger me, I'd done it just for one clutch, and then the next year both incubators got set at 31 and a half, and I think 31 and a half minimum. I think we pushed it up to 32.2 or 32.3. So we give it a fluctuation of that.
yeah. That's where it comes back to looking at these animals sitting on eggs. Depending on your room setup and the cages set up. If you get a 45-degree hot day, the temperature in your room will probably get higher. That means the temperature where these eggs are sitting will get higher. And then you watch what the females do. The females will sort of, let go of the coils a bit and open up a bit to help air the eggs a bit more. So it's a constant learning thing. And then you temp gun them. You're like, oh my God, how did it get so hot in here? And you temp gun them. And you're like, how the hell are those eggs still around 30 degrees? Like, what the hell? Is there like a magic juice in the air? So it's the learning thing. And like you said, I tried the higher temperatures to try and get the kinks out of the albino project. That didn't seem to be working. And that's where I thought outcrossing, because I spoke to a lot of guys in the US. So the outcrossing was a big thing. And then maternal incubation was the final thing that I did to try and prove that it wasn't a temperature thing. It's really the outcrossing. And it really is the outcrossing. And I mean, I can incubate them now or maternally incubate them and get the same results now, which is awesome.
We're doing the outcrossing at the same time as as the incubation temps went up. So it was both things lining up at the same time. I think there was the stronger bloodlines coming in from the outcross animals coming back, being put with other outcross animals, plus incubation temps going up. It had just gone from bad to bad to bad to amazing in one season.
Yeah, which is awesome. That's a great result, like that's what it's all about.
I just want to double check through some comments. First, just wanting pets and not breeding our ants. Does it hurt to not push the feed into them, just to let them mature in their own time? Now that's from an M. Brine or Brain, however you say that. Sorry, M. I'm not a linguist with names, but yeah, that's for you, Pete. Can they just let the food? Do they have to push them along or what?
I know a lot of guys, and I used to do it back in the early days, to get the results that I wanted as quickly as possible. You would feed the girls pretty heavy, and get them up to the size. Is that beneficial long term? I don't think so. Like if you've got animals 5 years plus, I'm going to say they're going to start, their reproduction is going to start to drop off. But so that's from a breeder's point of view. But as from a pet's point of view, the first winter usually is the scariest winter for any breeder when they sell an animal, especially for anyone buying an animal, because, they've got their cage sitting on, their mid-20s and it's doing fine, it eats, and then the first time it doesn't eat, it's a major catastrophe, or the animal eats and then regurges because the nighttime temperatures drop too low. 9 times out of 10, all your problems with the antaresia comes down to incorrect temperatures. If your temperatures are way too hot, the animal will be aggressive, like super aggressive. But the beauty of that is it'll eat and 3 days later it'll crap. That's great if you're a breeder and you don't care getting bitten 20 times. But if you're a keeper, then, just make sure that the temperatures are up, feed them once a week, as long as they're eating once a week. If they don't eat every week or every second week, it's no stress. These things eat, once every 3 or 4 months in a while if they're lucky.
To feed when they're coming up for a shed.
So,
you feed when they're coming up for a shed?
Oh, no, I learnt the hard way. I've done that before, and then you have animals that are halfway through a shed. The shed gets stuck. They've got the food stuck. It all turns into a giant, storm of horrors. And then you come back, and the worst case scenario is sitting right in front of you. So, if you know it's shedding,
Yes,
avoid,
there you go.
avoid.
Any newbies, when it's coming up for a shed, it's best not to feed. I've got just a good one here from
Just wait till they
I've got a
shed.
good one here from Jeremy Noble for you. Just saying that he's picked up a ton of info since chatting with you. So I thought that was a nice comment.
Thanks, Jim. I mean, I'm always happy to share information. I live a busy life. I should make it easier, but I don't. I make my life harder. You know, it's crazy.
Cups is going through, just answering a few people. Cheers, Cuppa. Yep.
Good work, Cups.
Ems is just thinking, Deb and Joe, your gorgeous wife's been answering a few questions, so thank you, Joe. So, right.
Smarts of the outfit.
Oh, it's good having a good wife, isn't it? I love it.
Yes.
All right, pushing on the next photo, number 8. Now, is this your walk-in incubator?
Yep. Yes, that's my walk-in incubator. So, at my peak, I thought I was the smartest guy in the world, and I did like 108 or 110 clutches. Right. You know, and I'm pretty sure there was a clutch of olives in there. There was a clutch of roughies. I think there was a clutch of Darwin carpets, some geckos, some monitors, but the rest of them were antaresia, you know. And as the dirt snake king, you know, I love them. I breed them, and I breed a lot of them. But the problem is, obviously, when you breed them, you got to house them, and then that comes into the next picture. You know, you got to house them, you got to keep them, you got to establish them, and not all of these guys want to eat when you want them to eat, and that can be a real firestorm. You know, I was very lucky. I've got a good friend who's got a great, a lot of experience in the hobby. Cindy Jackson.
Beautiful.
She comes from the zoo industry. Worked at Snake Ranch, the old Snake Ranch, for a long period of time, and you know, we were able to do a lot of things, you know, get all these animals feeding and established really quickly and easily. Her experience and my experience just complemented, and we work really well together. So let me just tell you this: I haven't done it again since. This year, I'll probably breed a few clutches this year, but I'll definitely be a little bit more cautious of where I tread. My workload is going to really be a bit more evened out.
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Favourite? Yeah. I got a question from Aidan Maxfield. Your favourite? What's the favourite lizard that you're keeping at the moment?
I would still say my blue tongues, just my normal eastern blue tongues. Yeah. I've got a couple of blueies there, you know, I acquired in the early 90s, like 93, 94. So they're my favourites anyway. Yeah, I think they're just great. I mean, monitors are absolutely amazing. Very close second, the monitors. The small monitors have got just as much attitude as the big monitors. The difference is when the big ones grab you, you've got a lot of stitches. When the little ones grab you, everyone laughs. You know, it's a great day.
I've got to admit, I'm enjoying them. I find them so interactive, so curious. Always watching. So I've moved on to the next photo, and that's you housing them. You housing 800 odd.
Yeah, Now
I've got to admit, I love the YouTube clips that you do when you walk from room to room to room. I love that stuff, man. I get blown away. You can see so much time and effort and thought has gone in to your reptile rooms. I love them. So
I appreciate that. I mean, it's my man cave. It's my place to get away, but it's also a work area too. So, you know, constantly trying to evolve and make myself better as a keeper, taking on new concepts, trying new stuff. And also talking with other keepers and seeing what works for them, and maybe that'll work for me. I mean, I get a lot of friends in Europe and the US that breed a lot of the dirt snakes, you know, and they've got problems establishing and feeding or getting this or doing that, and they're like, how do you do this? How do you do that? You know, and I'm happy to share the information because one day I'm going to need information back off them, and you know, that constant sharing is what it should be about, building a strong base. And, you know, it just really affirms the work that you do is respected everywhere.
We're a community. Cool. Well, we're supposed to be a community.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Yeah, and I always believe, you know, I'm no better than anyone else. I might have a little bit more experience, but I should be approachable and, you know, easy to talk to like everyone else, because that's the only way we're going to get the information barrier, you know, and get it out there.
Well, I was a big believer. The more people breeding, the more chance of a new mutation popping up. So the more everyone can enjoy. So yeah, that was my thoughts towards it. Anyway, I've just moved on to the last photo, and that's the book, The Complete Children's Python. So that was
so that just basically, it reaffirms all the work and dedication that you spent on something that you admired and loved and enjoyed, because you had loved and enjoyed it. And then somewhere along the line, you know, I've known Justin since you've known him, basically, since we were at that conference up in Cairns. And I met Nick when he came to the other conference here in Sydney. And we were talking, and they're like, oh, you know, we're thinking we've just done this, because they just had the first carpet python book released, and it was getting released in Australia for the first time. And I spent a couple of weeks with these guys, these clowns, you know, and we went up to the territory chasing snakes like madmen, you know, which was awesome. Great experience.
That was with Rico, wasn't it?
We got talking that. Yeah, Rico Walder, and there was another guy called Mark Spadaro. He was actually a Boland's python guy, and he still is. And I'm pretty sure he was the first guy to captive breed them in the US. So that just shows that field work, information, and dedication can take you down some really awesome avenues. And I mean, I spoke to these guys, and they said, oh, you know, Justin tells me you've got some antaresia. And I said, yeah, I've got a couple. And they're like, oh, yeah. And I said, well, they're actually laying eggs and sitting on eggs. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they come to my place for 3 days, I think. 2 or 3 days, and we did herping and all this other stuff. The first day they got here, I think I had 10 clutches dropped, and they're like, holy crap, this is out of control. And this is before I moved to that building that you see there, the new facility. And I think I produced 30 or 40 clutches that year, and they were here when I had 15 clutches dropped, you know, and they're like, oh my God, this is incredible. And then, you know, I just went through the process that I normally do. You know, I take the clutch, I weigh the clutch. And they're like, oh, why are you doing that? And I said, well, I've already weighed the female. Now I'm going to weigh her after the clutch so I can see how much energy she's put into producing these eggs. And they're like, okay. And then I'm separating the eggs. And they're like, what are you doing? And then I'm weighing and measuring them. And they're like, right. And then even in those days, I was numbering them. And then hopefully if I was there at the time when they hatch, I could actually catch the hatchlings and weigh the hatchlings as well. You know, really weird guy. You know, need a better lifestyle, need to get out more. But, you know, I was doing all this stuff, and they're like, okay. And then they're like, so how long have you been doing this? And I said, oh, you know, for 10 years. And they're like, really? And I went, yeah. And they said, show me your data. And I showed them the book. And they're like, holy crap, we need that. We need this. We need you. We're going to do this book on antaresia. And we all sat down and went, okay, let's make this happen. How do we do this? And then we sort of broke it up into sections. We all had our own designed little sections, and then it all combined. And, you know, I reached out to John Weigel at the time, because Cindy Jackson was working there. And they took some data for us in that last year prior to us doing the book. Nick and Justin put in some electronic temperature gauges in their clutches so that we could, you know, get some temperatures of maternal incubation. And we added all that in the book, and just all that information just came into this giant wad of context that we see in the book. Was just it was amazing to see it when it all came out and spat out the other end. You know, we looked at like most of my adult females were between the 350 to 450 mark. Snake ranchers animals at the time were between 500 grams to 800 grams, very heavy animals. Then what we did was we compared reproductive output per animal, and my animals were producing more eggs, more viable eggs, than snake ranchers animals, because once they got to a certain body weight, the reproductive output dropped off dramatically. And it just proved that what I was doing was more right than being a captive guy sitting there going, more food equals more eggs. Didn't work with the antaresia.
No, I was always a believer, not so much more food, but new fat. So if you had old fat on that snake, that was no good.
Okay.
And that's what I found with a lot of the stuff I was working with. So if I was pumped a girl up for breeding and I didn't produce eggs from her, then I'd try and strip the weight off her and then put new fat back on her before breeding again. And that's what I found very successful.
Yep.
But if she was a fatter girl, she'd have the smaller clutch size. But if she was, you know, and if she was like always a constantly plump girl, always overweight sort of thing, you just got to wave a rat in front of it and it puts weight
Yep.
on.
Yeah.
She'd always have small clutch sizes. But if I had a smaller snake and then March, April, May, bam, 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 I'd put a lot of weight on her really quick, then I'd get a nice big clutch size. So yeah, I'm not sure if you found stuff like that.
Yeah, but what we got to remember too is I'm dealing with snakes under 500 grams with clutch sizes of 150 grams. You're dealing with snakes that can weigh up to, you know, like a big girl. I don't know what a big girl you would have, 8 to 10 kilos.
Mark,
you know, and they could lay a clutch of, you know, they could lay a clutch up to 2.5 kilos of eggs, because those eggs are quite big, you know. So instantly that female has lost a quarter of her body weight in egg production versus an animal that's lost, you know, a third of its body weight in egg production. So the antaresias, you know, and I'm going to say the antaresia are probably more of an active species compared to a big olive as well. So therefore they're continually burning off fat stores anyway. And there was an interesting study done by Bedford, of all people, about feeding small food items to big snakes to help break down or remove body fat, because they're still using the same energy to eat a big rat or a small rat. The difference is the small rat only replaces a small amount of the calories used to burn off. So therefore, you can use and I've heard you say it many times, stripping off the fat by using small food items. And that's exactly what this study proved.
Bedford was one that taught
That's
me.
right, and that's how this study proved it exactly, you know, that if you've got a big fatty animal and you're worried about it's not going to breed, feed it small food items, because it's going to work the same effort, if not a little bit more, to try and get its mouth around and try and get it down, and then it's going to have very little yield from that food item. So yeah, it's pretty amazing.
He's a good guy, that one.
So horses for horses. So there again, you know, it's just one of those things. Knowing the animals that you're working with, and sometimes there's a correlation between us. Like sometimes there's a correlation of the stuff I do that can be transferred to olives, and vice versa. And then sometimes there's stuff that just doesn't. It doesn't cross over. You know, there's my information.
Yeah, one thing that you said that I liked was I like to weigh. I like to weigh pre-egg and post-egg laying, and I used to like, you know, weighing throughout the year as well, mainly in January and April. But that was because I wanted to see, once I weighed her, once she'd laid her clutch of eggs and I got a weight off her, I knew exactly how much weight I wanted her to put back on, you know, by January, and then exactly how much weight by April. So you could really gauge it that way. So I thought that was a really good tip that you put out there, that one. But yeah, weigh your snake straight after the egg weight.
It's just getting more in tune with the animals working. It's more in tune of getting in with the animals you work with. Yeah, it's just reading the animals, you know, because some of these snakes, like the Pygmy banded python, we found through all the information that that snake is one of the craziest snakes. You know, those females will drop between 50 and 80% of their body weight to egg reproduction, which is like you can imagine that animal doing that in the wild. It's basically saying, lethal. Well, I'm here to produce these eggs, and if I don't survive, that's okay. My job is done, which is crazy. And you look at all the other stuff, you know, you're talking 30 to 40%, and then you got these guys living right on the edge, and you're like, that's crazy, you know. And I've got a couple of guys in Europe, and they've sent me information, and they've said this female's just laid, and 70% of her body mass has gone into egg reproduction. And I'm like, yeah, that's what they do. And he's like, that's unbelievable. And it's like, I know. Explain it to the snake, you know, like this. You know, luckily enough, it's in captivity and it's going to get its body weight back on and kick back on. But it's crazy. It's madness.
That is right. So that's our photos with you for the night. So what I'd like to do is go through, before we go any further, I'd like to go through and answer the pick of the week. So if I've just got Dane having a look here. Number 2 is the winner. So there we go.
Ooh.
Blue.
Whoa.
Sorry, man. The Gex didn't get there.
I think it's called Varanus macraei. But yeah, that would have been my number 1. Number 2 is the antaresia, because it was a very fine line between the monitors and the ants. But
yeah, so there you go. That was good pick, people. Good pick. I think it was a hard pick, but yeah, well played. That one.
Yeah.
All right. So we've done that. We're pushing on the 2-hour mark. So before we go any further, any serious questions for Peter or any newbie sort of questions, please go through and shoot them through now, people, because we'll have to wrap this up soon. Yeah, we've been pushed on the 2-hour mark. So yeah, any newbies that have got some questions, or anyone that's got any specific questions for Peter, please shoot them through. Other than that, while they're doing that, I want to do a quick chat with you about the Australian system, the American system. We won't go into too much detail. We'll have to do another show another night. But if you could change something here in the Australian system, what would you pinch from the American system and put into our system? And then what would you just change altogether? Is there something that you'd change altogether in our system?
well, number 1, I'd like to see probably an Australia-wide licensing system, which will open it up for some of those states that are really restricted. If we have a united licensing system, united availability to animals, it's only going to benefit everyone. And I know it's difficult because every state has their own interest. And I mean, as Cuppa pointed out last week, COVID-19, we've got one state at the moment that's opened its pubs and clubs and allowing 20 people in, and every other state is saying 10 people or less, and then you've got another state saying no, none at all, 0. So if we have a united front on that part, where licensing is united across the boundaries, then every state, then all reptile keepers in every state, it's in their best interest for everyone to stick together. Because the problem at the moment is, guys in New South Wales are like, well, we've got our own problems here. The guys in Victoria, that's their problem. It doesn't affect me. And you guys in Queensland, well, you guys are greedy because you've got stuff that we can't have, so we're a bit envious of you. And then the guys in Queensland are like, well, that's not my problem, New South Wales, because I've got what I want. I don't care what you guys are suffering. We as hobbyists need to join together and go, you know what? We need to all sort of join together, like you say, with the Animal Care Australia, and have a united front, regardless of how we all feel about each other. You don't have to kiss and cuddle each other. But the reality is, it's in all our own interest to suck up our pride and join forces, because, united we stand, divided we will fall. And they've done that many, many times. In New South Wales, you have this united front, and then the authorities come in and they'll attack it from different angles. And once they work out who the weakest person is in that little group, they sort of wiggle their way in, talk to them, turn them, and then that guy, turns 3 or 4 other people in the group, and before you realise it, the little groups start to fragment, and then you have all these problems going on. So, yeah, we just need to just suck it up, princess, and get together, because these guys in the US, there's 26 million US reptile keepers. There's 26 million people in Australia, thereabouts. So it's like every Australian being a reptile keeper, they can do it.
Yeah.
And, they have resources because they're smart enough to stick together, put some money in the kitty. Yeah, obviously the guys, it's a lot more money to be made over there, but those guys are willing to throw a lot more money back in to make that a better industry, to make more money out of it. So, unless we're willing to do that, we're all going to be sitting in our, sheds, breeding our animals, or in our snake rooms, playing with our cool stuff, and we're never really going to get our foot out the door.
I 100% agree with you on that one. So, yeah, the sooner we get this united front going, because like I was saying before, these people, they've already got a member in Parliament, and we haven't even got a united group. They're pushing on 50,000 members. you know, we really need to pull our finger out. So, hey, questions.
And the other problem too is social media. You know, everyone with reptiles, it's up to us to be a little bit smarter in the things that we put out there, I guess, because they're going to gather all this and use it against us. Everything that you guys do, everything I do is going to be judged. I always get judged, and I get judged by everyone, you know, my peers, my YouTube followers, and all the rest of it. So you got to be a little bit smarter about what you do, you know, like, yeah, you get bitten by snakes. Do you want to go out there and purposely get bitten and provoke an animal to bite you or provoke these sort of negative responses? Probably it's not the best thing for all of us. Great for my views, but not the best thing for everyone, you know?
That's what Wayne and I found. That Bite Box, amazing name. Again, that would get amazing views, but that wasn't the message that we wanted to get across. So, yeah, we had...
Yeah, I mean, it turned from a bit of fun into something a little bit negative, because you see a lot of people, and that's the only reason they're tuning in. It doesn't matter what you're saying. They're like, quick, let's get bitten, let's get the blood flowing, let's do this, let's do that. And like I said, it's fun. And I mean, if I had cameras in my building, man, you guys would be loving it. But I don't, you know.
Yeah.
These little buggers bite you all the time, you know. There's another good one right there.
From your... Sorry, what was that bite? I missed that one. I was reading the comments.
Oh, it was just a little bite now, mate. A little wussy bite, you know. That's big timers.
I got one here from your wife. We need a lawyer. We need a lawyer in the reptile game.
Yes. So like I said to you, in the US, Phil Goss is the face of US ARC. He's a great ambassador. The difference between them and us is, you know, we're trying to get a reptile keeper to step up and take on the academic role of being a lawyer and knowing all the rules and regulations. The US guys are different. They just get a lawyer or, you know, a barrister and all their lawyers, or a lawyer firm, and they pay them to do all the lawyer work while everyone else keeps the animals. So the lawyers can actually concentrate on the rules and regulations and why we can and why we can't, rather than have a heartfelt emotion. You know, these guys are just doing it because that's the law, you know. It's the way it should be. So it's a little bit different.
Well, my idea never gets very far because it costs so much, but my idea has always been we need to get a united front going where it's raising a minimum 120 to 150,000 a year. That goes to a lobbyist. That lobbyist goes to Canberra every day for the next 3 years straight, lobbying for our rights and our changes. And it's going to take 2 to 3 years before Canberra sees us serious as a pest and start making some changes to get us to go away.
Yeah, I know. And I remember the days when Gavin and Greg were trying to roll this out, you know, and all the criticism, rather than people get on board, all the criticism. What are you going to do with this money? What happens if you don't spend the money on that? Where's the money go? What are you guys doing? It's like, what do you think these guys are gathering money for a holiday? Like, serious. Like, these guys were putting their names, their reputation on the line to represent the hobby. And the hobby couldn't even turn around and back them, you know? And that's the sad part about it. We need to be smart enough to go, you know what? It's 10 or 20 bucks, boom, done.
Well,
it's an expense, big deal. Done. Every reptile keeper throws in 20 bucks, it's going to make a difference.
Well, I'm hoping this time around with this Animal Care Australia that, the hobby does pull its finger out and get on board and give it a fair dinkum Aussie crack. We've never done that. And that's something that annoys me. Us as Australians, we always give something a good Aussie crack. And we haven't done that in this hobby yet. And that's, we're slacking there.
No, we're always willing to sit back and wait. And when it all falls to pieces and everything falls apart, we're quick to blame everyone else. But we're never quick to take responsibility, you know, that I had a part in this. And, you know, maybe if I did get off my butt and I did do something, maybe we wouldn't be in such a bad place, you know. And even if you are doing it, then don't criticise the next guy. Encourage them to get on board. Like, saying that, I guess I better chuck my money where my mouth is too, you know, and get on the hooter tomorrow and get a part of it, you know. I've got to talk to Joe Payne. She loves the comments. Make sure you guys spam her heaps more. She likes it.
I hear about it all the time. If you want, feel free to film it and show people how easy it is. That's something I got to do. I've been putting the message out there, but I'm as bad as you. I haven't put my money where my mouth is yet. So that's something I got to do. I got to put my money there. I got to I got to
lead by
film
example
and show these people how easy it is. Because I was talking to Joe during the week, because I put a little episode out last week, something like that, about Animal Care Australia and Animal Justice Party, and she said, yes, the Animal Care Australia page got a bit of interest, but no one really getting across the line, no one really signing up. So we can't slip on this one. We need to see it through.
No. But you're right. We've got to lead by example, and that's the only way it's going to change. You know, if I do it and 3 other people do it, well, then that's 4 of us. You know, if you do it and 2 other people jump on, you know, there's 7 of us now. You know, like it's the only way it's going to happen, and then hopefully one of their friends is going to go, well, if you did it, I'm going to do it too. You know, like we've got to change. We've got to change what we're doing, because it's not viable. I mean, I guess a lot of people out there don't realise the archaic days it used to be, especially here in New South Wales. You were not allowed to keep a reptile in any shape or form prior to 1996. You know, if you were lucky enough to be the biggest whinging pain in the butt like I was, you were able to get a general license to keep certain animals. That was it. Every time you wanted something, you'd have to write in for approval, because there was no computers. You would ring them up. No, it's got to be on paper. You got to write it up, send it off, ask them that you want this, and give all the license numbers and stuff. And then they very politely send you a letter back saying, no, it's denied. Why? Because we're national parks. You know, we're happy with that. Done. You know, licensing's come in now, and everyone looks at it as though it's a rite of passage. Man, I tell you what, the guys that stood before licensing in New South Wales, they're the guys that should have really been praised the most. You know, Jerry Swans, Glenn Shays, you know, they're the foundation guys of the hobby. Hal Coggers, John Weigel, John Montgomery's, you know, all these names. There's a whole cast of names of guys that put their names and reputations on the line to get licensing in, so that everyone else can keep them today, so that they can buy a lizard and send you a message going, I just bought a lizard, I'm not sure what it eats or what to keep it in. It's like, really? You know, like the guy selling that animal, the person selling that animal, you know, really drives me nuts. If they're not doing the education part of it, then don't be buying the animals off people if they can't tell you anything about the animals. It drives me insane.
Agreed.
That just drives me insane. To see where it's come from to what it is, it's just it can be disappointing. Some really good
names mentioned there, man. Some like real. I respect every single one of those names that you shouted out. Then, so some amazing names. I think well, we're pushing on. You know, we're 2 hours, so I think we better wrap it up. You're happy with the amount of info we've got across. We haven't had a whole heap of newbie questions come in. So, but we've held over 300 all night. So, thank you so much for that, Peter. Awesome. Yeah.
No, thank you, Troy, for inviting me on, and hopefully they don't cut your arm off next week, because that would be very that wouldn't be very nice. It'd be a great war story. Great war story, but like I said, you're going to have a great network there. I reckon we should do it from there.
I haven't told people yet, but that's the plan for next week. There's I might, the left arm's in trouble, so I might be losing a little bit of the left arm yet. I'm hoping not, but what they're going to do is they're going to open me up, and they're just going to leave it open, and you see what happens. So that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, I lose a limb. So, but, I don't know, man. I don't know if you believe in karma, or I must mean Genghis Khan in a past life, or I've got an amazing life coming up. One of the two.
Yeah. Well, I agree, mate. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, good things, should happen to good people, but it's not always the way, unfortunately.
You take it with what.
But you're a battler, mate, and you're hanging in, and that's all that matters, Having a crack and keep going.
That's a perfect sign. This show was, last week was nothing but problems, and look at this week, holding over 300. Holding in there, giving it a crack, and bam, you finally start hitting. So
Yep.
thank you so much to you, Peter Birch. For those that haven't subscribed to CrittaCam, please do. You know, Pete's been in the hobby for 20 plus years. He's been one of our pioneers. He's done so much for the hobby, and he's going to continue to do more. We'll have him back on the show because we didn't even get to talk about future projects and stuff like that. So we'll definitely be having Peter back on the show. You're in, man?
Oh. Yeah, man. Yeah, I'd see how I operated that whole project.
Yeah, I didn't miss that. Again, thank you so much to the sponsors that are helping fit the bill for for a lot of this stuff. So again, that's Reptiles Down Under, Riverina Reptiles Relocation, and Morelia Magic. Do us a favour, give all three of those guys a like and a follow and all that sort of stuff. Keep an eye on Reptiles Down Under next Wednesday. I thought the piece of paper said something coming with vision racks and maybe a price drop or something. So just head over anyway. Yeah, next Wednesday and check it out. And next, also FNL on FNL Reptile Chat on YouTube. Head over there, give us a like, give us a sub, hit that notification bell. We do some extra stuff that's not just the Friday Night Live stuff. I go out to different collections every now and then when I can, and I pull the phone out and just film a little bit of this and that. So always little bits of stuff going up on there. And next week I'm not 100% sure. We'll be playing that one by ear, folks. So if there is a show, it'll be here, same bat time, same bat channel. If there's no show, there's no show. I'll put the notice up, letting you guys know that I'm still in hospital and yada yada yada. So thinking some good thoughts for me next week, please, people, because I'm going to be hurting a lot. I've had a little bit of the arm open before, and that was open for about a week, and that hurt. So this time having a good quarter of the arm open, this is going to hurt, this one. So thinking good thoughts for me, please. Well, I think that's about it. Everyone's saying good night. Great show. So again, thank you so much, Peter Birch, and I will see you guys. I'll see you guys hopefully next week. If not, the Friday night after. Stay safe. Have a good weekend all. And I'll see you when I see you. Bye.